When I was a college senior, I met the woman that I'd be married to for many years, and it was not easygoing. I was still very early on in my process of just beginning to understand my birth family circumstances, just beginning to name it as dysfunction and as trauma, just beginning to start the journey of my recovery. Every day, my heart hurt. You don't emerge from a lifelong, chronically threatening environment in any other way. I was anxious and cranky and blaming. I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like a complete bother. I felt unworthy. I felt withered. I was 22. I did have a friend, though, who never failed me. My journal, writing, was asbestos to my burning heart. It helped me handle the flames within. But it wasn't enough. I wish it could have been. It would have made everything simpler. But the deep craving for live human contact persisted. I could not shake it. I was like Vincent van Gogh when he said, "A great fire burns within me, but no one stops to warm themselves at it, and passers-by only see a wisp of smoke." I wanted someone to see beyond the wisps to the great fire. I longed for that. It did not matter that from my earliest years I had learned over and over again the lesson that people are dangerous, that the ones you love the most and should love you, the ones that you most depend on, they hurt you over and over again. Still, though, I craved. Invariably, I'd find my way to busy places on the campus, entrances to buildings, inside cafeterias. I would be alone, standing, sitting, sounds of conversation washing over me, sounds of crowds, sounds of laughter. I was in it, but not of it. And the one thing that I rarely did was look people in the eye. I did not look people in the eye. I kept my face closed. I kept my face cold. I kept my face flat. Just walk on by. That's what that said. Just walk on by. There's nothing here to see. I don't need you. Even though in truth, I was like Vincent van Gogh. One day, Laura, the woman I was to be married to for 20 plus years, found me in the cafeteria. She came up to me, and though I was scribbling furiously in my journal, eyes trained on the page, I could sense someone. She just stood there. I kept writing, hoping she would go away. She didn't. She just stayed there. I wondered, what's happening? Finally, I looked. Laura. Irritation flashed through me. Then I did what I didn't normally do. I looked into her eyes. And what I saw was this, that she saw beyond the wisps of smoke to my fire. She saw that. She saw me. I was seen. It was the start of feeling like, after everything, I might yet belong to something that is good. That is how I come today to the question of belonging, which is our question before us today, acknowledging that no one comes to it as a blank slate, as a tabula rasa, acknowledging ambivalence. On the one hand, we have all been hurt before, to one degree or another. We have all been let down. But on the other hand, the deep craving for human contact persists. We cannot shake that thing. But why? And let's go a little deeper here. Exactly why is the longing for connection indestructible? Now, I want to point out that this is not just any congregation. This is a Unitarian Universalist congregation, which means that, among other things, we believe religion and science go hand in hand. The conversation going back and forth between them can be a positive thing. So, to answer the question before us, we're going to look to a scientific discipline known as relational neuroscience. In her book, 4 Ways to Click, Dr. Amy Banks, PhD, says that relational neuroscience shows that there is hardwiring through our brains and bodies designed to help us engage in satisfying emotional connections with others. This hardwiring, she says, includes 4 primary neural pathways. And when we are cut off from others, these neural pathways suffer. The result is a neurological cascade that can result in chronic irritability and anger, depression, addiction, and chronic physical illness. I mean, that's it. The longing for connection is indestructible because it is not a choice. It is an intrinsic part of how we are designed as human beings. We can't not long like Vincent van Gogh longed. Of course, I position myself at entrances to buildings or inside cafeterias so that I could be among people even as I was afraid to death of people. Dr. Banks mentioned 4 neural pathways, and it would be good for us to get acquainted with them. Briefly, they are, number 1, the smart vagus, which enables us to moderate stress through social connection rather than through fighting or fleeing or freezing. It's linked to some facial expression muscles, to hearing and to speech, and also to swallowing. When the smart vagus is working right, you are able to hear and to see what people are actually doing and saying. And if people are friendly, well, you go calm. So the second pathway, called the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, which is a complex alarm system that tells you you are being left out, and that is dangerous. Evolution has taught us that. When you're left out, that's dangerous. It's been shown now that this alarm system triggers the same sort of pain that happens when real physical hurt occurs. There's nothing wimpy about the pain of being left out. When the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex is working right, the alarm system goes off when you really are being left out and not at any other time. And now the third pathway, the mirroring system, which allows us to feel a deep in the bones connection with others. When it is working right, you feel resonance with others. You feel empathy. It allows our hands to feel warm when another person rubs theirs. That really happens. It allows us to sense a friend's sorrow even before they tell you with words, I am sad. You can sense it. You can sense that thing. That is the mirroring system at work. And finally, the fourth neural pathway, the dopamine pathway directly connected to relationships, known as the mesolimbic pathway, which rewards experiences of growth-fostering relationships with a shot of positive energy, because that's how dopamine affects us. It gives us a shot of zest, a shot of elation. That's what the dopamine system does for us. When it is working right, that shot of dopamine is paired with positive human contact and not something else. That's the 4 neural pathways which give structure to the human instinct to belong. And did you notice that with each of them I said when it's working right? Did you notice that? Yeah. Because this takes us right back to the ambivalence piece. Because when a neural pathway's functioning is under or over or in some other way compromised, as it was for me, given how I grew up, well, belonging becomes a huge problem. A huge problem. Relational neuroscience shows that when the smart vagus is under-functioning or has poor tone, what happens is that a person has a hard time seeing and hearing what is actually happening around them. They misinterpret neutrality and even friendliness as aggression. They also make things worse by avoiding eye contact and evincing other nonverbal behaviors that come across as irritating, uncaring, even hostile. They are chronic blamers. They are on a short fuse. The smart vagus for them, not very smart at all with these guys. Or take the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. Problems happen when it overfunctions, and the "I'm being left out" alarm is constantly screaming at you. The endless alarm digs a deep hole in your heart until you could swear to God that you are completely unworthy of belonging, until you could swear to God that you will be fated always to be left out. And often the result is living a paradox. You hide whatever parts of yourself you feel you need to so that you can be more attractive to others. But by hiding anything about yourself, you just trigger more pain. And also you reinforce the feeling that you are fundamentally unworthy. But, you counter, if I just let it all hang out, well, I drive people away, and that's also pain. And there you have it, the insane paradox you get stuck in because your dorsal anterior cingulate cortex is messed up. Messed up. Equally troublesome things happen when the mirroring system and the mesolythic pathway aren't functioning right. With the former, you feel cut off from others. With the latter, your brain has learned to unpair feeling good with belonging. Shots of dopamine come your way are triggered by gambling instead, or drinking, or workaholism, or video gaming, or some other kind of addiction. The dopamine-based motivation to experience real live human connection, it's gone underground. You have forgotten it. Now, at this point, you might be wondering whether this is a sermon or a lecture on neuroscience. So let's go straight to a big part of my message this morning, my sermon message. You are not to blame. You have a hard time recognizing the friendliness of friendly people, and your nonverbals are so off-putting that you can make friendly people less friendly, even unfriendly. It is not your fault. The soul-crushing feeling of being unworthy and a bother that never seems to stop, and hiding parts of yourself makes it better and makes it worse. It is not your fault. You don't feel the mirroring effect with others. You feel caught behind a stiff, unyielding mask, and others appear to you as just the same way. It is not your fault. Long ago, you stopped relying on other people to be a source of pleasure for you, and you go elsewhere, maybe to unsavory elsewheres. It is not your fault. 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 There are things to do to make it better, and I'm about to get to that. But I really want you to hear what I am saying right now. Some of you are survivors of family situations as bad as mine, or maybe even worse, and it is not your fault that you bear the scars in nothing less than your neural pathways. But it's about all of us too. All of us are members of a larger culture that force feeds us the mythology of lone rangers and going it alone and heroic individualism and the message of you are mature to the degree you can stand isolated and alone. That leaves a scar too. It is not your fault. It means that when we are struggling with belonging, don't see yourself as pathetic and broken. Don't blame. Reframe. Don't blame. Reframe. One or more of your neural pathways is in a rut. We all know this, that our brains are sculpted by the early environments we grew up in, but we also know, or we should know, the genuine good news gospel of neuroplasticity. Thank you. Where's the rest of you? Amen. Which means that old ruts are never permanent. They aren't like sins, which require nothing less than supernatural blood of the Lamb to erase. Otherwise, we are told, they persist into all eternity and condemn us to everlasting hell. No! Hear the gospel of neuroplasticity, which says that brains can change. It takes hard work. It takes time, but they do change. Just work on it. Work out your salvation with diligence. That's your Unitarian Universalist pastor telling you that. Work out your salvation with diligence. To this end, Dr. Amy Banks and other relational neuroscientists offer any number of things to do. Here I'm going to suggest just a few, and they are all things that we can do as part of our belonging to this beloved community. One is to take our covenant of healthy relationships seriously. The short form is on the inside of your order of service cover. We will be mindful of how we communicate with and about others. We will seek a peaceful and constructive resolution process when conflicts arise. We will celebrate the diversity within our community. We will build the common good. This is just another way of saying, let's hold dangerous people accountable for their actions. Let's make this place less dangerous and more safe. And guess what the recipe is for strengthening the smart Vegas? Exactly that. Exactly that. Another solution is to get involved with a covenant group where you can know others deeply and be deeply known in return. The neuroscientists say that one of the ways of soothing a hyperactive dorsal anterior cingulate cortex is to start risking unveiling parts of yourself progressively, to take that risk of revealing who you really are one piece at a time. Covenant groups are ideal places for that. Yet another solution is to participate in worship rituals. Now, let me just ask you, does it really take a neuroscientist to prove that singing heals? Music heals? Is it? Dr. Donald Milton III, what is your professional opinion about the power of music?
It is good.
Right. Participate in worship rituals. You know, recently I've asked you to place your hand on your heart while we do the embracing meditation. The neuroscientists say that such simple physical rituals like that, they also calm down an overactive dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. That thing that is screaming at you that you are unworthy. That thing that is screaming at you that you don't belong. But every time you put hand to heart and you say, I will love myself. I will love others, and love will heal the world. Whenever you do that, you are working to heal a neural pathway in your brain. Also, don't forget the receiving line after worship. Hugs given and received. When they are safe, they heal neural pathways, and they are absolutely safe over here. They come with simple love, no strings attached. This is your beloved community. And I want you to know that the meaning of that is fundamental. Belonging to this place changes our brains for the better. You cannot do it all by yourself, all alone. Your body will not allow for that. Our bodies will not allow for that. Only through belonging can we work out our salvation with diligence. Look someone in the eye today. Let them know that you see beyond the wisps of smoke to the fire in their soul. Let them know that you see them. And let yourself be seen. Believe that you are worthy and loved by a love that is larger than you can know. Believe and then act. Lift up your face. Look back at that person looking at you. See and be seen. Amen.